Welcome back to Problem Solver Politics. I am your host, Cardin Ellis, with Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
And today's kind of a wild day. Today's a little bit of a wild day because by now you've probably seen all kinds of controversy, and I know Twitter has been lighting up on PSP Radio 1. By the way, follow us. About Andrew Yang's endorsement of one Joe Biden. And a lot of strange tweets afterwards concerning Bernie Sanders. And, you know, I'm actually just going to defer to Cody on this one because this whole circumstance has me a little bit befuddled. Because I'm kind of like, why'd you do it and why'd you do it this way? I would want to sit down Andrew Yang and kind of ask some questions. So, Cody, tell us what's going on.
All right. Well, I mean, simply put, last night on CNN, CNN political commentator Andrew Yang did officially endorse Joe Biden for president, which shouldn't come really as a surprise to too many people. Andrew Yang has been on the record. Well, I don't want to put it that way, but Andrew Yang has been on the record for months now saying what a lot of people have said. I mean, I've kind of said for a while, people say, who's Obama going to endorse? I'm like, Obama already endorsed to the person, whoever wins the nomination.
Exactly.
Andrew Yang was pretty similar. He's like, I'm going to endorse whoever wins. So it wasn't too surprising to see, especially with last night's results coming in and Joe Biden not necessarily steamrolling, but it just looked like that was the third big election night in a row that was really bad for Bernie Sanders and really good for Joe Biden. So at a certain point, in the room, I have to imagine on the CNN set when you're in the room with the, when you're in the centrist, not the centrist, but the, the establishment belly of the beast there. That's probably the mood. And he realized, Biden's going to take this. I'm going to endorse Joe Biden. So we'll read through the quote here. Said, I believe that Joe Biden will be the Democratic nominee, and I've always said I'm going to support whoever the nominee is. So I'm hereby endorsing Joe Biden to not just be the nominee for the Democratic Party, but the next president of the United States.
Why not just wait?
It was weird for him to say it on air like that.
Like, if you believe that Joe Biden will be the Democratic nominee and you've always said you're going to support that nominee, well, then just let it play out. Why introduce all of this controversy? That's the only thing I don't get.
But here's the thing. It's like the controversy. Dude, Kamala Harris endorsed Joe Biden. Kamala Harris had one good moment in her entire campaign. The only moment in Kamala's campaign where she gained support was when she attacked Joe Biden.
Yeah.
She's endorsing him for president. I mean, like, it's not necessarily like that you have to have been, like, the best of friends with someone forever to now endorse them. One thing that is weird, though, Andrew Yang had also said for a while that his endorsement would not hinge, but, I mean, if anyone came out in favor of UBI, that would be a big benefit. Joe Biden, as far as I know, has never came out in favor of UBI. But as he said, he mentions it, that he said, I will endorse whoever the winner is. Oh my God, excuse me. But he goes on to say a couple other things here. He actually goes on to mention, I don't know if they have the exact quote here, but he also goes on to mention that Joe Biden does run into the risk of perhaps not recognizing who these younger voters that supported Bernie Sanders were, alienating people from the party. He said, just trying to keep failing systems going is going to lose people like my supporters. Another thing I want to point out, I'd have to look, as far as I know, Andrew Yang has not came out and necessarily, aside from saying we need to come together and unite, he hasn't actually instructed any of his followers or supporters to vote for Joe Biden in any way. Obviously not instruct, but I haven't really heard Joe Biden say it's really important that we all join Team Joe. I've heard nothing like that from Andrew himself.
It's a very flaccid and weak endorsement.
Well, but then to get to a little bit more you're talking about. So this is what Andrew Yang put in his Twitter account this morning in reference to him endorsing Joe Biden. I mean, as you can see, it was just a little bit, I don't want to say bizarre, but it just definitely, the fact that he mentioned Bernie Sanders isn't the craziest thing ever to me. I don't want to get hung up on this. Just stuff on Twitter. Twitter isn't real life. I say that all the time. But again, just kind of funny to see that directly under him mentioning why he's endorsing Joe Biden, he also goes out of his way to say nice things about Bernie Sanders. It's not a bad thing. I'm kind of not like glad he did it, but good. You shouldn't be kicking him in the mud. It just is weird to me. Hasn't really gone out of his way, aside from saying Joe's winning, to mention why Joe Biden's any different or better than Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, that's my thing. Is I'm looking at this. It says, to my friends and supporters who support Bernie Sanders, I was a Bernie supporting in 2016. Before I even finish that sentence, I think, well, why'd you give up on it? Like, what is so much better
Why
about
did you just endorse Joe Biden one tweet above you? And that exactly. But one more thing, I want to get to just...
And it's not like you said, dude, he pulled me aside and he is committed to the fourth industrial revolution. Well, then I'd be like, okay, I'm sold.
You didn't endorse UBI. What she said was... But there's just one more thing I want to touch on.
Okay,
and we'll move on, and then we can just get into how we feel about it. So that was just a little bit weird to me. And then, again, he also goes out and does another tweet, basically just... I mean, it definitely comes out as he's basically saying I've chosen my side. I guess not apologize. Not going to put words in his mouth. He's paying tribute to Bernie Sanders the morning after he endorsed his opponent. you can call that what you want. I would say it's kind of an apology. But anyway, moving past that, this was the other thing I want to highlight. Because I know a lot of people disagree with me, but that's whatever, not really a big deal. People disagree all the time. I don't really get too bothered by it, but this is what I thought was really fascinating. So somebody tweeted at Andrew Yang and said they were disappointed in Andrew Yang for endorsing Biden, to which Andrew Yang responded and said, I understand and know the feeling. So know the feeling doesn't mean he feels the same way. It was just, there's part of it people are saying, I'm not going to say is an awful take on this, which is just that Andrew Yang is trying to comfort people. But here's the thing that just weirds me out. It's like, dude, maybe it's just me personally, so I'm not going to say it's right or wrong. No, I'm not saying it's bizarre. I'm just saying personally, as somebody who did not think it was weird that Andrew Yang endorsed Joe Biden, but I'm going to admit, guys, I had a moment last night where I took a step back and said, wow, Andrew Yang is now a CNN political commentator who doesn't just endorse Joe Biden for president. Like
the most establishment candidate we have seen in 20 years.
I knew he was going to endorse Joe Biden eventually. Just the way he did it, how it happened, like wind the clock back about a year. And I was, wow, who's this guy on Joe Rogan? Interesting, running on new ideas, running from the outside, running to kind of defeat and get rid of this crony establishment Democrats that I think are bad for the party and bad for the country. And he's endorsing him. So perhaps he's saying he knows the feeling. Maybe he felt the same way when Bernie Sanders endorsed Hillary Clinton. I don't know what he's referencing in general, and in particular, I mean. But in general, yes, the fact that he can empathize isn't a bad thing. However, this is the one thing that's bothered me today. And let me know in comments if you've seen it. I've seen nothing from Andrew Yang, aside from him just saying the math lines up, reassuring anyone any reason why they should vote for Joe Biden. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't seen Andrew Yang actually tell anybody it's important to vote for Joe, aside from we need to come together. We need to come together. I mean, what bothers me, and this is the second time we've seen this side of Andrew Yang now, the first time that night, this bothered me when he did this, when he came out and said he was boycotting MSNBC.
Yep.
And then when he was boycotting MSNBC, he's like, good, that's what he said he'd do. Same way, when he endorsed Joe Biden, that's honestly how I kind of felt. That's what he said he'd do. Good, he should do what he said he'd do. I guess that's a better way of putting it. What's bothering me is I'm seeing the second time now on pretty big decisions. Say what you want, a presidential candidate saying I'm blacking out a media organization. You do not make that decision likely because they have friends in other media organizations and they talk. The same thing here, just to notice that you're endorsing a candidate for president. Kamala Harris endorsed Joe Biden for president. Cory Booker endorsed Joe Biden for president. And as far as I know, I could be wrong, they didn't feel the need to run out and defend and explain themselves. They kind of stuck by it. So perhaps Andrew Yang this morning...
It almost makes you look unconvinced.
Well, no, I think he learned this morning what it feels like being a politician. That's probably what it feels like. You go on live television and endorse people you don't believe in. It's probably what it feels like being a politician. Swear to God, do I believe for 1 second Andrew Yang believes in Joe Biden? No, I don't. I do not for 1 second believe that Andrew Yang, you know what? Looking into Andrew Yang's tweets today, I'm not going to say one way or the other. If I had to take a stab and a guess, I would wager he doesn't either. He doesn't feel that way about Joe Biden. He doesn't think, wow, party's in great hands. You know what tells me that? If he felt that way, he would go out there and say, look, obviously I can't tell the Yang Gang what to vote for or what to do. But look, guys, it's really important we do come out and vote for Joe. It's really important that Joe Biden's the one. Joe Biden's the one. I mean, does Andrew Yang not realize he's endorsing Joe Biden as he's running against Bernie Sanders? Maybe Andrew Yang thought Bernie would drop out in the morning. It wouldn't be as awkward. Bernie Sanders announced he's definitely debating Joe Biden in a few days. It's going to be kind of weird. Bernie Sanders, my great friend. I supported them all the time, but he's going to lose to Joe Biden, even though I think he's, 80 delegates behind and they're still running?
Yeah.
So I don't know. And the one last thing I'll touch on here as far as the information I've gleaned here is that this is, as far as I know, the best I've looked into the behind the scenes.
I was about to say, can you pull up the Zach Grumman
the closest
tweet?
behind the scenes I've got. It's from Zach Grumman. I do believe he's currently listed as campaign manager for Andrew Yang. It's kind of transitionary, whatever. But he said that Andrew Yang makes his endorsement of Joe Biden. For the Yang Gang who don't love this, please know there was no horse trading or backroom dealings or political calculations. By the way, I never thought there was. I thought that Andrew Yang's always just kind of pragmatically. However, it appears that it was made. I mean, according to Zach, he texted Yang while he was on air, I'm assuming on a break, and he was like, yeah, I guess you're right. We got to endorse him. Should I do it now? I mean, I'm not going to put words in the mouth, but that's kind of how it came out. It was like they just threw to Andrew Yang, and he's like, yeah. They were like, all right, polls close in 1 hour in this state. Anyway, Andrew, how do you feel? Well, I'm endorsing Joe Biden. They just kind of happened that way, which I agree. It's just, I really do hope that this isn't the kind of thing where we see Andrew Yang kind of, like, if you're going to endorse somebody for president, please be all in on it, is all I'm saying. The only thing that bothers me is I'm seeing Andrew Yang not go all in on his endorsement. I'm not saying he should say, if you don't like Joe Biden, shove it. But he should be saying, look, Joe Biden won me over. And let me explain how he won me over. Let me pitch to... Andrew Yang isn't pitching Joe Biden to me, and that's what worries me. Why is he endorsing a candidate he won't pitch to me? You endorse him? You won't even bother, aside saying he deeply cares about the Fourth Industrial Revolution and it's important that we beat Donald Trump. He went on in his endorsement on CNN to mention these are the things Joe Biden shouldn't be doing. I don't like that he does. I believe the exact thing I mentioned before. He was talking about if Joe Biden keeps insisting these institutions that are failing are working, then he probably will lose a lot of support. It's not the fact that he endorsed Joe. It's not even that he did it live on television. It's the fact that I'm getting from Andrew Yang for the second time now, him making a big decision and me kind of standing behind that decision and then seeing him not stand behind it just a day or two later. The MSNBC boycott was longer, but it bothers me. I'm still going to support him. Still going to donate every month to the, his Humanity Forward thing, because I believe in all that stuff. But Andrew Yang, the politician now, to me, he is now officially just Andrew Yang, the politician. Like, I feel like something was lost. No, but not even lost. It's just, that was the end of the thing. He declared he was running 2018, I believe, November of 18. He declared he was running for president. He ran for a few months without a whole lot going on. Early 2019, the Joe Rogan thing happened. He really took off. There was that full year of 2019, early 2020. His first couple of states didn't go well. He suspends his campaign, goes to television, and endorses Joe Biden. That kind of feels like there's the bow on his primary. That's the bow on Andrew Yang 2020. I feel like from the moment you announce you're running to really the moment you announce who you endorse to win in your stead, right? Like, suspending the campaign's one thing. I just feel like when you've actually moved on to your endorsement, that is the end. And it's not like in the end of like, I'm done with Andrew Yang. Just in the end of like, that really is the Andrew Yang's run for president in 2020. It began with him running on UBI and end with him endorsing Joe Biden. And he's still supporting UBI elsewhere. I guess my larger point being is I'm now way more interested in Andrew Yang, the philanthropist, the mini Elon Musk. I'm way more interested in that Andrew Yang than I'm interested in the CNN political commentator. I sort of endorse Joe Biden, but not really. I don't know. Bernie's great too. Don't be mad at me for endorsing him. I get that you guys are mad because I like Bernie, but I guess I don't like that guy. I really don't. I will admit, I don't like that version of Andrew Yang. I don't like I'm boycotting MSNBC for being unfair to me until they said they'll let me on, but they won't apologize and I need the coverage. I've never liked that version of Andrew. I never have. I've always liked the guy. I like the guy I used to see in the rally stages, right? Yeah. Going up there swearing, saying whatever. That was the guy I liked. This is not that guy. I mean, let me know if you disagree, but I'm sorry. The version of Andrew Yang who goes on CNN to talk about endorsing Joe Biden is not the guy that I saw a year ago campaigning. And you know what? We all change, especially over the course of a year, especially running for president when you're Andrew Yang. Just unfortunate to see that this is Andrew Yang, the politician now. He is a politician. If you want to argue against it, tell me I'm wrong when I say that CNN political analyst Andrew Yang live on air announced his endorsement for Democratic establishment candidate Joe Biden. Tell me that didn't happen. Not the end of the world. I still like Andrew Yang and will support what he's doing outside of maybe the mainstream politics. You could definitely say that Humanity Forward still, in the UBI stuff he'll be doing in his podcast is still politically, but I'll be way more on board with that. But yeah, you know what? I've seen enough people go on TV and flip-flop about their political opinions and I don't need to see more of that. I'm going to be way more interested in what he does away from this stuff. No flame, no heat. I'm not done with Andrew Yang completely. It's just the Andrew Yang 2020 presidential campaign. As far as I'm concerned, when you've endorsed the next person, you've ended it completely. Like, I don't see him unsuspending now that he's endorsed Joe Biden. And there we go. That's how it ended. It ended with Andrew Yang endorsing Joe Biden on CNN. Did not in a million years see that coming, but I guess all I can say is I'm way more looking forward to seeing what he does away from CNN in this Democratic primary.
Dude, whoever said you couldn't carry a whole episode yourself, man? Nothing left to say, baby. This has been a great episode of Cody's Corner. Please come back. No, just kidding. Actually, I only really have one thing to add, and that is this seemed bizarre to me because do you remember I know you don't like political examples because sometimes they come across as partisan, so I'm going to use a Hollywood example. Do you remember the movie Michael Clayton in 2007 with George Clooney?
I know it exists. I don't remember anything
Okay,
about
there's this famous scene at the end of the movie where he ends up figuring out who tried to get him killed, and he confronts the person with a wire, and he says something interesting. He says, "I'm not the guy you kill. I'm the guy you buy. I'm the easiest part of the equation. I'm the guy you buy. Why didn't you try and buy me? Why'd you try and kill me? Then the person confesses to killing him and the feds come in, right? Well, if I were Zach Grumman, I'd be thinking in my mind, any past success that we had with Andrew Yang was because of his outsider status. Yes, he's a politician because he registered and he became a Democrat and he's an official candidate. But he really isn't an outsider. When people think of him, they think tech pro, they think philanthropist, they think smart, intelligent young man. They don't think senator of 40 years, okay? So his outsider status was really his claim to fame. And that's really actually why CNN wanted him, because he was an outsider that had the outsider view that ended up becoming a candidate that can now give us the insider and the outsider view, you know? So I don't have a problem with him becoming a CNN person, but if there's no requirement for you to endorse anybody, and you run the risk of alienating half of your audience because it's become a binary election, why endorse? And on top of that,
well, not even that.
You lose. You really risk losing. You become a politician instead of that outsider.
But just why not stand? Like I mean,
and if you are going to do it, say what the damn good reason was.
Yeah, stand up for it. Say, look, I don't feel bad for not endorsing Bernie because I'm believing Joe Biden. Like, either don't endorse anyone or endorse the person, I guess is my point.
There's that famous scene at the end of Lincoln where I
think it's is it Abraham Lincoln movie?
No, it's an Abraham Lincoln movie. Another one made by Spielberg, all right, where Tommy Lee Jones's character comes out and he's confronted by his assistant. And he says, why did you compromise? And the guy said, I've been fighting for 25 years to get the word slavery removed from our conversation. At that point on that floor, I was willing to say anything to get it done, right? So that's fine. Like, even if you were just to come out and say, you know what, he didn't endorse UBI, but he's the closest I've come to getting any influential politician to care about the fourth industrial revolution, even that would have helped. But the immediate apology tour, even within his own thread, severely weakened his own position. And like you, I'm very glad you brought up the MSNBC scenario we went through about 3 months ago, because the very first thing I thought was, man, there's this half of Andrew Yang that just really, I don't want to say cowers sometimes because that's too, but he backs down.
Well, no, I think it's the inverse. I think there is a little, and part of it's being people that have success in business aren't super, I just forgot the word on it, impulsive. But this like there's been a couple of times, I cannot imagine a word where an on-the-spot decision to announce your endorsement live on air cannot be described as somewhat impulsive.
Yeah, bad idea.
It seems like sometimes they'll kind of get caught up in the moment, which is something everyone does, say a thing, and then have to live with it a couple of days later, and which happens all the time. And it's just a couple of times now on something, which in general in politics happens all the time, but it just like who you're endorsing for president is just one of those things. I don't know. I was, when he said he was endorsing Joe Biden, I said, that's cool. And I was kind of,
I wouldn't have done an endorsement at all, because I got to tell you, to me, you lose your outsider status.
Well, that's
and like for me, the worst move was just endorsing it all.
Well, but
for me, just making the endorsement was a bad move, because now you're working for the most Democrat establishment news media outlet, and now endorsing the most Democrat establishment candidate out there. I don't think there's a single member of the Yang gang that supported you for being this rough and tumble outsider who is going after the robots. Nobody thought that now you would not only be so completely absorbed by the media industrial complex that you're endorsing the Democrat candidate. It's one thing to say, hey, I'm going to do the math and let the system play out. And then once it plays out, say, okay, Joe Biden's my guy. But it seemed like a premature endorsement. I don't get where it came from. I don't see why he did it. I have no arguments on the merits over Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden, because I'm not voting for either one of them. But to me, it was just a bad idea to endorse at all.
Well, I don't want to say it's bad to endorse a candidate. It's just,
in this situation,
no, it's like, dude, at least try and sell me on Joe. The fact that he didn't even try to, and he was more interested in selling people why they shouldn't, why he understands why Bernie Sanders supporters are upset. It's like, well, dude, I'm willing to listen, and your basically answer to me was, you cares about, dude, I know he's been coming to you talking about the fourth, and I get that everyone's not me who reads all this stuff, but it just bothered me to see Andrew Yang seemingly kind of, not like, just, if you're going to endorse Joe Biden live on air spontaneously, just back it up, man. Stand up for it. Really mean it. If you're going to endorse someone for president, really endorse them. At least bother to pitch them to me. before you start apologizing to Bernie Sanders supporters. At least bother to pitch him to me first. And he doesn't care, man. It just, I don't know. I don't want to say that. Because again, I'm not saying anything bad about Andrew Yang. It's just he is a media figure and politician now, so I'm going to criticize him as one because he is one. And then this was a bad move. I like all the stuff he says. I'm literally donating money monthly to his cause because I believe in it. But this ain't
the last thing I'll say.
I would have liked to see him either. You know what? We criticize all the time Elizabeth Warren, right? I used to always say, you push Elizabeth Warren hard enough with her own name and she'll admit it was something else. She held out in her endorsement longer than Andrew Yang is. Something to be said about that.
Yeah. My only comment will be the following. Do you remember the movie Juno?
Third movie.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
That was the third movie today.
No, yeah. You got mad at me about the bipartisan political examples last time, so I'm doing movie examples. All right, I'm trying to keep it good on air, you know. But I remember there was this really beautiful quote where she said, when she figured out the people she was going to adopt her child to were just, getting divorced and everything like that, she said, "Why do you have to be broken like everything else in this world?" And there's something about what happened in this endorsement process of Andrew Yang that was bizarre enough, weird enough, or strange enough that the most authentic candidate that I supported and pushed more forward than anybody else on that stage out there, the most authentic candidate out there somehow managed to seem inauthentic, just like all the others. And I'm not going to say he was bought. I'm not going to say that it was a bad call. I'm not going to say this and that because it might be a mixture of a lot of different things. But it just made the most inauthentic guy, the most convinced guy, and the most self-assured guy who knows the data and has done the math. It made that guy not seem like that guy.
Oh.
And it made him seem unconvinced, inauthentic, and not exactly sure of the math.
Well, I do want to, because again, while we're critical of him, because we should be, he ran for president and he works for a media company. Like, comes with the territory, man. It's like, I'll
welcome to adulthood,
yeah,
right?
Well, not even that. I'll rail on Mike Bloomberg. He was crying when he announced that he was resigning. That's sad, but he also was a very successful man, has had a lot of wins of his life. Same to Andrew. But this is a great microcosm of what's going on. And all I'm saying is, I would have liked to see more of this. If Andrew Yang isn't going to endorse Joe Biden because he doesn't believe in him, okay, that's fine. Then don't. But better sign from Andrew that he seems to have now kind of, not literally sobered up, but figuratively kind of like, okay, the shock is over. Because I'm not gonna lie. There had to be a shock to Andrew Yang when he woke up and read the headlines this morning. Yeah. And it was like, live on CNN, political analyst Andrew Yang endorses Joe Biden. Just like, dude, that was me last night. Holy cow.
Ooh, Alana on that text is vicious.
What I want to get to is, this is the line he walks. I prefer to see him at least try to pretend he legitimately believes in Joe Biden. The only problem is he was responding to people on Twitter because he was getting a lot of stuff like this. People calling him a sellout. People saying he sold his soul. People saying all this stuff. Now, here's the only thing, and this is where I will get 1/8 of our armchair psychologist. Generally speaking, people don't respond to things that they don't find. If they just thought, it's such a stupid, baseless smear, there's no basis in that. I don't feel like I'm a sellout at all. Why would you respond, right? He didn't respond to this person. Not what I'm saying. It's just I hope to see moving on that, and again, Andrew Yang did the same thing. I was unhappy when he backed out from MSNBC. A few weeks later, whatever, that's life, moving on. But unhappy to see how he initially handled the initial rollout of his Joe Biden endorsement. I would have much rather seen the endorsement be a little bit better handled. Perhaps done a little just more controlled. Maybe there's a thing to not just blurting your endorsement out live on television. Maybe there's a reason why, for the most part. Do you remember Amy Klobuchar endorsed Joe Biden? Amy Klobuchar announced she was endorsing Joe Biden on a rally stage at the same time she was announcing she was suspending her campaign. You can still do it big.
Yeah.
It's just, you could do it a little bit more controlled. But hopefully, moving forward, like I said, I'm way more looking forward to seeing what Andrew Yang does off the court, so to speak, because this is what happens when you work on CNN and endorse Joe Biden, I guess.
Yeah. So anyway, let us know what you guys think. Be kind in the comments. You know what I'm saying? But let us know what you think. Cody's like, what? No way. We really want to know your opinions. What do you think about this endorsement? How does it influence you moving forward? please opine below. We love trying to get back to as many people in the comics as we can. Let us know what you're thinking on Twitter and follow us at PSP Radio 1. Also, if you haven't had a chance yet to join the channel, make sure you press that join button. It's an inexpensive way to keep us corporate sponsor free. And also follow us on Facebook. We're at Problem Solver Politics on both Instagram and Facebook. And I forgot, the podcast on your favorite podcast platforms, the audio of all of our podcasts is released daily. This is Problem Solver Politics. We'll see you guys in the next video.